My sister-in-law tried to kidnap my 1-month baby. After losing her pregnancy at 7 months, my brother and mom actually supported her. I thought they were grieving, but it turned into something darker, manipulative, that forced me into actions I couldn't ignore. Hey, Reddit, I never thought I'd be the guy posting here, but after everything that went down with my family this past year, I kind of need to get it off my chest. Let's just say becoming a dad showed me who really had my back and who completely lost their minds. What started as weird comments and concern turned into something I never imagined I'd deal with. Buckle up because this isn't your average family drama. So I, 27 male, first-time dad. My wife, I'll call her my wife throughout, we made it official at the courthouse later, and I are expecting our son in a couple months. We'd already chosen the name Timothy. We're not rich or anything, but we're comfortable. I've got a steady job in tech, my wife does part-time remote work, and we live in a 2-bedroom apartment that's honestly perfect for starting a family. The second bedroom got cleared out the second we found out she was pregnant. It turned into Baby Central overnight. I'm talking piles of Amazon boxes with baby clothes, bottles, wipes, a stroller I swore was more complicated than my first car. The works. Anyway, let me give you the cast of characters, because this is where things get messy. My brother Paul. He's 32, a couple years older than me. He stayed close to home, worked some local job I honestly couldn't even describe, and married Bella when he was 26. Bella's 29 now. And then there's my mom, Kate. She raised me and Paul after our dad died when I was 12. She's the type that always had a soft spot for Paul, probably because he never moved away. Meanwhile, I left for college, got a job, built a life 4 hours from her, and I swear she never forgave me for it. Bella is like the daughter my mom never had. Mom dotes on her, defends her, and basically puts her on a pedestal. And I'll admit, I felt for Bella at first. She and Paul had been trying for kids for about 3 years. 2 miscarriages early on, and then she made it to 7 months before losing the baby last year. That kind of loss, I wouldn't wish on anyone. But here's the thing. Grief does stuff to people, yeah. But Bella's grief took a turn into straight-up creepy territory. When we announced my wife's pregnancy at a family dinner, Bella got up, left the table, and never came back. Paul followed her, and that was that. Later, my mom told me Bella cried for hours that night. I figured, okay, makes sense. It's painful seeing someone else get what you've been fighting for. But then the messages started. At first, it was articles about pregnancy complications, statistics about miscarriage rates, and helpful little warnings about things that could go wrong. You know how normal family texts are like, congrats, can't wait to meet him? Yeah, hers were like, did you know stillbirth can happen even in healthy women? Who the hell sends that? Then she started calling my mom to grill her about my wife's doctor visits. Stuff like, does she eat enough protein? What's her blood pressure? Did they check for gestational diabetes yet? My mom, instead of telling her to back off, would pass those questions along to me like she was the family spokesperson. I ignored them. Christmas was when I realized this wasn't just awkward. It was off. We drove back home for the holiday. My wife at 6 months pregnant. Bella spent half the visit rubbing my wife's belly without asking, like she owned it. And she kept saying crap like, oh, he's kicking for me. He knows who's going to take care of him. My wife would smile nervously, but later she told me she hated it. I hated it too, but I didn't want to cause a scene at Christmas dinner. Another time when my wife was in the kitchen, Bella looked straight at me and said, you don't need to worry. I'll make sure this baby grows up right. Like, excuse me? I'm the dad, not you. My mom's no better. She's got this way of turning everything into a backhanded compliment. She'll say things like, you're both so young. Are you sure you're ready for this responsibility? Or, you both work such long hours. How will you manage a newborn? And then magically, she'd bring up Bella. Bella works from home, you know. She has so much more flexibility. Like she was planting little seeds, trying to make me second-guess myself. At first, I tried brushing it off. I told myself it was just grief talking, or maybe just my mom playing favorites like always. But every time I talked to them, I walked away feeling like I wasn't the one having a kid, like they were, and that pissed me off. I didn't say anything to Paul yet, because every time I did, he'd defend Bella. She's just excited, or she's still healing. Meanwhile, his wife is sending my pregnant wife stillbirth articles at midnight. Healing isn't the word I'd use. The more I think about it, the more it feels like I was the only one who saw how messed up this was. My wife wanted to give Bella the benefit of the doubt because of her losses. My mom enabled her. Paul acted blind. And me? I'm sitting there painting a nursery thinking, am I crazy or does everyone else not see how wrong this is? Looking back, those were the first warning signs. I should have known then that this wasn't going to be normal family drama. But at that time, I just chalked it up to grief and awkward timing. I thought it'd pass once the baby came. Spoiler, it didn't. If anything, it ramped up in ways I couldn't even make up if I tried. It started with my mom. She'd call me during the week while I was working, and instead of normal mom stuff, she'd come at me with little concerns. Are you sure your apartment is big enough for a baby? Don't you and your wife both work way too many hours? Have you guys even saved up enough for childcare? And then the kicker, she'd slide Bella's name in there. You know, Bella works from home. She'd have so much more flexibility. Like she was pitching me on a babysitter, except not really. At first, I'd laugh it off. Mom, we've got it handled. The rent's paid, the bills are fine, the baby's fine. But she wouldn't drop it. Every call somehow turned into a comparison between my wife and Bella. It was so obvious she was trying to plant seeds. Like maybe I'd eventually say, hey, you're right. Why don't I just hand my newborn over to Paul and Bella? Then Paul himself started calling. That's when I knew this wasn't just Bella being weird or my mom being a favoritism machine. They were all on the same page. The first real call I got from him, he didn't even bother with small talk. He jumped straight into it. Look, Bella isn't doing well. She barely eats. She cries all night. She's wasting away. She turned the spare room into a nursery. She's been buying clothes. This is killing her. I stayed quiet because I wanted to hear where he was going. He didn't disappoint. You'd actually be helping her heal if you let her raise Timothy. Think about it. You're young, you're busy, you've got your career. You could try for another baby, and she could give him a full-time parent. That one sentence hit me like a slap. Let her raise Timothy. He didn't even dress it up as helping out or watching him sometimes. He said it like it was already a done deal, and I just needed to sign off. I told him, Paul, I don't know what planet you're living on, but nobody is raising my son but me and my wife. Period. He didn't like that answer. Started throwing shots about me not being ready. You guys aren't even married yet. You work 60 hours a week. How are you going to give a kid the attention he deserves? I almost laughed. Like marriage paperwork or square footage defines whether you're a good dad. Plenty of kids grow up in apartments with working parents and turn out just fine. But apparently in Paul land, that meant unfit. That call flipped a switch in me. It wasn't just grief anymore, it was entitlement. They had convinced themselves they were more deserving of my kid than I was. And my mom? She was backing them. After I hung up, I went into full cover your ass mode. I started saving every text, every weird voicemail. Even wrote down times and dates when my mom or Paul said stuff. Felt paranoid, but I had this gut feeling I was gonna need it. Meanwhile, Bella doubled down on her weirdness. She'd comment on every post we made. If my wife posted about shopping for baby clothes, Bella would reply, I already bought newborn and 3-month sizes too. Burp. If we posted about decorating the nursery, she'd say, oh, I picked that same crib. Like she was mirroring everything, trying to insert herself into the role. It got to the point where I told my wife to stop posting anything baby-related because it just gave Bella fuel. My wife thought I was overreacting, but I knew better. This wasn't just grief talking, this was planning. Then my mom started calling with suggestions. One night, she flat out said, maybe it would be better if Bella came to live with you guys for a while after the baby's born. She could help, you'd get rest, and she could bond with the baby. That one froze me. Bond with the baby? What kind of grandmother suggests that the aunt move in and bond with a newborn like it's her child? I told her, absolutely not. We're fine. She got all huffy and accused me of shutting family out. It became this constant pressure campaign. My mom even pulled the maybe it'd be better for Timothy if he was raised in a house with a yard, with someone who has more time. I wanted to scream every time I heard that. Like I wasn't busting my ass specifically to give my son a better future. Like my kid was a charity project and I was standing in the way of the perfect donors. That's when the anger really settled in. This wasn't just insulting to my wife. It was insulting to me. As a man. As Timothy's father. They were basically saying I wasn't capable of protecting and providing for my own family. That I should hand my kid over to my brother like I'm some teenage screw-up who got in over his head. Nah, that wasn't happening. By the end of the month, I was done playing nice. I told my wife flat out, we're documenting everything, tightening what we share, and locking down who knows what. And if Bella or Paul show up again, I'm not entertaining them. I don't care if my mom cries about family bonds. Timothy is ours, not theirs. I didn't know it yet, but that was just the warm-up. The real crazy hadn't even started. It was a Saturday morning, my wife was about 8 months pregnant, and I'd run out to grab groceries. When I got back, I saw her standing in the doorway looking pale. She said, you're not going to believe what just happened. Paul and Bella had shown up unannounced. No call, no text, just rolled up to our apartment like they owned the place. Bella was carrying a brand new car seat in one hand and a diaper bag in the other. Before my wife could even say anything, Bella pushed past her and walked straight into the nursery we'd spent months putting together. She started looking around like she was inspecting it, moving things, muttering under her breath. My wife tried to tell her to stop, but Bella ignored her completely. When I walked in, I heard Bella talking out loud like she was narrating a home tour. "We'll put the crib over here. This changing table will fit better against the wall. Yeah, this'll be perfect when he's home with us." I froze. "Excuse me? What did you just say?" She spun around like she'd been caught stealing. "When Timothy comes home with us," she repeated, dead serious. My wife looked like she was about to cry. Paul was standing behind Bella with this helpless look on his face, like he knew it sounded insane, but wasn't about to correct her. "Bella, you need to leave," I said, keeping my voice low because I didn't want my wife stressed. "This is not your house, and that's not your baby." That's when she lost it. She dropped the car seat on the floor, collapsed to her knees in the middle of the nursery, and started sobbing so hard I thought she was going to make herself sick. Through the tears, she screamed, "God took my baby so I could have yours. It's not fair. He's supposed to be mine." "He came back to me as Timothy," I snapped. "Get out, both of you, right now." Paul just stood there watching his wife scream about stealing my kid. I got in his face. "If you don't get her out of here right now, I'm calling the cops." That got him moving. He finally grabbed her under the arms and tried to haul her up, but she kept wailing, reaching for the crib, muttering Timothy's name like she was in some kind of trance. I dialed the police while Paul dragged her down the hall. By the time they showed up, she had calmed down enough to sit in the living room, but she still had that wild look in her eyes. I told the officers exactly what happened, how she barged in, started rearranging the nursery, declared my son hers, then had a full-on breakdown. You'd think that would be enough to get them to do something, right? Nope. One officer gave me this half smile like he'd seen it all before and said, "This sounds like a family matter. If you feel unsafe, you can look into a restraining order through the courts." They did log a report number, but made it clear nothing more would happen unless there was actual harm. Basically, their advice boiled down to, go file for a restraining order yourself. I wanted to scream. My pregnant wife was shaking on the couch. We just had two lunatics try to stage a dry run of taking our kid, and all I got was family matter. Bella started crying again, saying she just wanted to help, that she didn't mean to scare anyone. Paul kept apologizing, but in that way, where it wasn't really an apology, more like, "Sorry you felt that way." The cops left after taking notes, and I slammed the door behind them. My wife asked, "What are we going to do?" And I swear it broke me a little seeing her so scared in her own home. That night, I made a decision. I told her, "Tomorrow, we're getting married at the courthouse." She looked at me like I'd just proposed again, confused. I explained, "We're not giving them any angle. We're locking this down legally before Timothy even arrives. No arguments, no loopholes, nothing they can twist." The next morning, that's exactly what we did. We went down to the courthouse, signed the paperwork, and walked out husband and wife. No white dress, no big party, just a couple signatures and peace of mind. And you know what? I didn't feel cheated out of a big wedding. I felt like I'd just built a wall around my family. My wife cried happy tears, not because of the ceremony, but because for once we weren't just reacting. We were protecting ourselves before the next storm. Because by then, it was crystal clear. This wasn't grief anymore. Bella wasn't just mourning. My brother wasn't just supporting his wife. And my mom wasn't just worried. This was obsession, a delusion they were all feeding into. And I was the only one standing between them and my son. That thought stuck with me through the last month of the pregnancy. My wife and I tried to act normal. Work, doctor visits, last-minute baby prep. But in the back of my mind, I knew, the next time they made a move, it'd be worse. So when Timothy was finally born, I made a call most people probably won't understand. I didn't tell my family. Not my mom, not Paul, not Bella, nobody. The only people who knew were my in-laws and a couple close friends. I wasn't risking a surprise hospital visit with a car seat again. My wife went into labor late at night, and after a long, Timothy came out perfect. Looking down at him, I thought, this is mine. My responsibility, my blood. Nobody is taking this kid from me. For about 48 hours, it was perfect. No drama, no family nonsense, just me, my wife, and our son figuring out how to be a family. But peace doesn't last when you've got people like mine. My mom found out anyway. Not from us, but from a mutual connection who saw my in-laws post online. Within an hour, my phone was blowing up. Calls, voicemails, texts. Everything from "I can't believe you didn't tell me" to "Bella is crushed you kept this from her." I didn't answer. I wasn't about to let her ruin the one peaceful moment I'd had in months. Then Bella herself started posting. Not directly at me, she wasn't that bold, but on her own pages where we could see it. Things like, "So excited to finally meet my son soon, and his room is ready for him to come home." Like she was announcing an adoption, not watching her brother-in-law have a kid. It got under my skin bad. My wife cried over it one night, worried that people reading those posts would actually believe Bella. So I did what I should have done earlier. I called Pastor Williams. He'd known our family for years, officiated Paul and Bella's wedding, knew all the players. I figured maybe he could slap some sense into them. I explained everything to him over the phone. He stayed quiet until I finished, then said he'd already noticed strange behavior from Bella during her grief counseling. Apparently, she'd started talking about a baby coming to their family soon. But whenever he pressed for details, she'd dodge the questions. That wasn't even the worst part. He told me she had been planning Timothy's life out loud in sessions. His christening, his first Christmas, even his first day of school. Like she had a calendar in her head of all the milestones she'd share with him. Hearing that made me sick. And then he dropped the kicker. Bella had been volunteering to help in the church nursery. At first it seemed harmless, but then she fixated on one particular baby and started calling him "practice for when our baby comes home." The parents complained, and Pastor Williams had to ban her from being around the kids. He said it caused a scene. The whole congregation saw it. That's when I realized this wasn't just uncomfortable anymore. This was dangerous. The woman needed help. After that call, I told my wife we needed to make it official. We drafted a letter straight to Paul, Bella, and my mom. It wasn't sugar-coated. It said Timothy is ours, period. Any attempt to interfere or take him would result in legal action. We sent it certified mail so there'd be proof they got it. 2 days later, my phone rang. "Paul," I answered, knowing exactly how it'd go. "You're being selfish," Paul snapped. "She loves him unconditionally, and you're keeping him away. Family is supposed to help family." That's when I lost my temper. Family doesn't try to steal your kid, Paul. Family doesn't show up at your house with a car seat like they're on a pickup run. You and Bella crossed a line, and Mom is right there egging you on. So don't call me about being selfish. If you want to talk about selfish, look in the mirror. He hung up on me. No surprise. After that, I went even harder into defense mode. Every voicemail got saved, every text screenshot, every weird post archived. I even printed out Bella's "My Son" posts in case I ever needed them. My wife thought I was being paranoid, but I kept telling her, it's not paranoia if they've already tried to invade once. At night, while rocking Timothy to sleep, I'd catch myself staring at the door, half expecting them to come barging in again. It wasn't a healthy way to live, but I wasn't about to let my guard down. I'd promised myself I was the only one standing between them and my son, and I wasn't about to break that promise. Good thing I didn't, because the next wave of crazy was worse than anything I had braced myself for. The person who dropped the bomb on me was my cousin Natalie. She's a few years younger than me, works as a social worker in the same county my mom and Paul live in. She's usually the type to stay out of family drama, but she called me one evening and said, "I need to tell you something, and you're not going to like it." Turns out she'd been assigned a case involving a couple flagged for trying to buy a baby through shady channels. Guess who it was? Yep, Paul and Bella. She told me she had to recuse herself immediately once she realized it was family, but not before she saw enough to know just how far they'd gone. A neighbor of theirs had overheard Bella on the phone talking about payment arrangements for a private adoption. The neighbor thought it sounded fishy, like not agency legit, and called it in. Investigators dug deeper, and what they found blew my mind. Bella and Paul had paid several $1,000s to some scammer online who claimed they could connect birth mothers with families directly. Basically, it was baby black market stuff. Other couples had already lost money to this same scheme. But here's the part that really chilled me. When investigators went to their house, the nursery they had set up wasn't just some generic baby room. It was decorated specifically for Timothy. They'd printed photos of him off my social media, stuck them in frames, lined the dresser with them. They'd bought baby clothes in sizes that lined up exactly with his age, month by month. Natalie said the investigator who saw it described it as one of the most disturbing things she'd ever walked into. Hearing that made my stomach flip. I already knew Bella was delusional, but seeing how much planning had gone into it, this wasn't just hope or grief. This was obsession turned into an action plan. The county couldn't charge them with anything criminal because they were technically victims of the scam, not the perpetrators. The DA declined to press charges since Paul and Bella had paid into a fraud ring that was already under investigation. But because of how far Bella had taken it, CPS flagged her for a mandatory mental health evaluation. The second I got off the phone with Natalie, I told my wife, we're done waiting. We're lawyering up. And we found a family lawyer who specialized in custody and protection orders. I brought every single screenshot, every voicemail, every weird post, every detail Natalie had told me. She didn't even hesitate. She said, "You've got more than enough here for a protective order. If you don't do this now, you're leaving the door open for them to escalate." So that's what we did. Our lawyer filed an ex parte harassment petition with all the screenshots, voicemails, and Natalie's notes. The judge granted a temporary protective order right away while we waited for a full hearing. A week later, that order was officially in place against Paul, Bella, and my mom. None of them could come within 500 feet of us or Timothy, and no contact was allowed, not even through third parties. For about 3 days, it was quiet. I almost thought maybe it finally scared them straight. Then my mom proved me wrong. She showed up at my workplace on a Friday evening. I was leaving the office when I saw her standing by the parking lot, clutching her purse like she'd been waiting. Before I could even turn back inside, she walked up with tears already rolling down her face. "Please, just listen," she begged. "Don't let them do this to Bella. She's getting worse. If she could just see Timothy, it might help her heal." I told her, "Mom, you're violating a court order right now. You need to leave." She shook her head. No, listen. How much money would it take? I'll pay your rent. I'll pay for childcare, whatever you need. Just let Bella have supervised visits. You don't have to give him up completely. Just let her bond with him." That was it for me. My jaw clenched so hard I thought I'd crack a tooth. Timothy isn't for sale. And the fact you're even saying this proves exactly why I don't want you around him. She got angry then. Switched gears like she always does. This is your wife's family influencing you. They turned you against us. You're destroying your own family. Bella's happiness depends on this, and you're too stubborn to see it. The whole time I had my phone recording in my pocket, because at this point I didn't trust any of them not to twist the story. Security eventually came over when they saw voices were raised. They escorted her off the property, and I handed the recording to my lawyer the next morning. I could have pushed for her immediate arrest, but I held back. My lawyer said it would be stronger to use the recording at the hearing to extend and tighten the order, instead of letting her spin it as a misunderstanding. That recording was gold. My mom tried to deny ever offering money, but there it was, clear as day. That was the moment I knew we were out of time. If my own mother was willing to bribe me in a parking lot, then Bella trying again wasn't if, it was when. I told my wife that night, "We're moving. I don't care what it costs or how fast we have to do it. We can't live like this, waiting for the next stunt." She didn't argue. She'd been holding Timothy extra close ever since Natalie's call. I'd already promised I wouldn't break. Now it was about making sure they couldn't break us, no matter how far they were willing to go. It was a Wednesday. I had left work early because I'd been running on fumes. My plan was to swing by the apartment, grab a late lunch, and maybe even nap before logging back in. I wasn't expecting anything, just a normal quiet day. But instead, I walked into the scariest moment of my life. Earlier that morning, Bella had sent my wife this long text apology, swearing she was in therapy now, that she finally accepted her role as solely an aunt, and just wanted peace. My wife, still feeling guilty about Bella's miscarriages, believed her and agreed to let her stop by. When I opened the front door, I almost tripped because Bella was standing there, in my living room, holding Timothy. Not in a "look, I'm babysitting" way, but in a walking out with him like she owns him way. For a second, my brain stalled. Like, how the hell did she even get in here? Then I heard my wife calling from the kitchen, pots clanging. She had no idea Bella was halfway to stealing our son. "Bella!" I snapped, my voice louder than I intended. "What the hell are you doing?" She jumped like a kid caught shoplifting. Then she plastered on this fake sweet smile. "Oh, hey, I was just holding him. I came by to apologize, remember? We were just having lunch." I looked at my wife, who came rushing out of the kitchen looking guilty. She said she just wanted to be an aunt. She sounded sincere. I thought. Her voice trailed off when she saw Bella clutching Timothy like a prize. "No!" I barked. "This isn't an aunt holding her nephew." She was walking out the damn door with him. Bella's face twisted, like her mask fell off in real time. "You don't understand," she hissed, hugging Timothy tighter. "He's mine. He's always been mine. You two don't deserve him. God chose me. I'm his real mother." That was it. Something in me snapped. I stepped forward, close enough that she had to look up at me. "Give me my son. Right now." She shook her head, eyes wild, muttering Timothy's name over and over. My wife gasped, her hands over her mouth. I could see the realization hitting her. Bella hadn't come to apologize. She'd played her, walked right through the front door with a fake olive branch, and tried to take our baby. I didn't wait. I reached forward and pried Timothy out of her arms. She fought it, but I'm bigger, stronger, and I wasn't about to lose that battle. Timothy started crying instantly, the confusion and tension in the room hitting him all at once. Crazy doesn't even begin to cover you, I told her, holding him close. You're violating a court order. You've crossed every line possible. You're done. She lost it then, screaming so loud the neighbors probably heard every word. He's mine! You're stealing him from me! Her voice cracked as she tried to push past me, still reaching for Timothy. That's when Mrs. Parker, our neighbor across the hall, showed up. She must have heard the shouting. She peeked in and immediately pulled out her phone, saying she was calling the cops. Bella kept screaming, pacing like a caged animal. My wife was crying now too, but not just from fear. Guilt. She kept saying, I shouldn't have let her in. I shouldn't have believed her. I wanted to comfort her, but I had to stay locked on Bella. The police showed up in under 10 minutes, but it felt like an hour. By then, Bella was on the floor again, sobbing and rocking back and forth. When the officers asked what was going on, I explained everything. The protective order, the fake apology, her trying to leave with my son. Mrs. Parker backed me up word for word. They told us it didn't matter that my wife had opened the door. It was still a violation of the order just for Bella to be there. Bella, of course, started spinning it. She claimed she just wanted to help out, that I was overreacting, that I'd misunderstood. But the cops didn't buy it. The protective order was already in the system, and she had no business being there. They put her in cuffs while she howled about how I was destroying her life. Paul showed up halfway through the commotion, probably after Bella managed to text him during the meltdown. He ran up yelling, "You're making this worse!" Just give her a chance. The officers told him to back off or he'd be in the car too. For once, he actually shut up. Once they hauled her away, the apartment felt like it had been through a tornado. My wife sat on the couch shaking, clutching Timothy while I rubbed her back. She whispered, I thought she meant it. I thought she just wanted to be an aunt. I crouched in front of her. Don't blame yourself. She knew exactly what strings to pull. She's manipulative, and she fooled you. That's on her, not you. But the truth is, that moment cemented it for both of us. We weren't safe here anymore. Protective orders meant nothing if she could sweet-talk her way past my wife and almost walk out with Timothy. The very next morning, we called the moving company and put down a deposit on a relocation. My employer had already approved a transfer, and I wasn't wasting another second. I told my wife, this is it. We're not waiting for another scare. We're gone. She nodded like she'd been waiting to hear those words. We didn't waste time. Within 2 weeks, our apartment was empty, and a moving truck was headed across state lines. Because of the transfer, I could work from home in the new state without missing a beat, and my wife backed me every step of the way. We signed a lease in a quiet neighborhood where nobody knew us, nobody knew Timothy, and most importantly, nobody knew my family. At first, the adjustment was rough. Every knock on the door made us freeze. Every car that slowed near our building had me double-checking. My wife admitted she'd dream about Bella showing up at night, trying to sneak Timothy out of his crib. For months, we lived with that tension, waiting for something bad to happen. But slowly, the paranoia faded. Instead of living in defense mode, we finally started living like a normal family. Timothy had a park down the street, a safe daycare, and neighbors who waved without hidden agendas. And Timothy thrived. He went from crawling to toddling, from babbling to stringing 2 or 3 words together. He'd pull himself up on the couch, clap for himself, then laugh so hard he'd fall on his butt. Watching him grow without Bella's shadow hanging over us felt like taking a breath after being underwater too long. We still got updates through my cousin Natalie. A few months after we left, she told me Bella had been hospitalized after her breakdown, 3 weeks inpatient. When she got out, Paul moved her closer to her sister, and he finally started therapy on his own. Natalie said Paul admitted he'd lost perspective, that he actually convinced himself I'd be grateful one day if they raised my kid. It made me sick just hearing it, but at least he was finally facing reality. Mom didn't. Kate kept trying for a while, looking into grandparent rights, like she could lawyer her way into my son's life. When other relatives learned what she'd been up to, most pulled away from her. She played the victim, claiming she was just trying to help everyone. But the truth was out. She wasn't just enabling Bella. She was plotting behind the scenes. That was enough for me to cut her off completely. I'd be lying if I said it didn't sting. A part of me wanted my mom to be the safe, supportive grandma. I pictured her baking cookies with Timothy, bragging about him to her friends. Instead, she tried to put Bella's grief above my right to be a father. That's not something you forgive, And it's sure as hell not something you risk a second time. But walking away gave us space to build better. My in-laws stepped up, becoming Timothy's only grandparents. They never pressured us, never overstepped. Just love, support, and respect. Exactly what we needed. They're the ones who show up to birthdays, who FaceTime just to see Timothy laugh. That's family to me now. Sometimes I think about that day Bella tried walking out of my home with Timothy in her arms. If I'd been 10 minutes later, who knows how far she would have gotten. That thought still makes my chest tighten, but I don't dwell on it, because she didn't succeed. I stopped her. And that's the part I replay when doubt creeps in. People online love to say I was harsh, that Bella was grieving, that my mom was just trying to help. But grief doesn't justify stealing another man's baby. And help doesn't look like bribing me in a parking lot or researching ways to strip custody. That's not family. That's entitlement wrapped in excuses. My son isn't a therapy tool. He isn't a replacement or a project to heal someone's pain. His only job is to be a happy, healthy kid. And my only job is to make sure he gets that chance. Now, when I watch him laugh at cartoons or run clumsily through the park, I know I made the right call. I chose him over them. I chose peace over chaos. And I'd do it again without blinking. Sometimes the family you build matters more than the family you were born into. Took me a long time and one hell of a fight to learn that. But Timothy will grow up safe, loved, and wanted. And in the end, that's all that matters. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.